Andrew, I want to talk about how you're thinking about the decarbonization of supply chains in the NHS. So what are your primary challenges? What are you looking towards in the future? And what do you see as the real opportunities for the NHS?
Yeah, no, super. So the NHS has got a massive opportunity. We're a big part of the UK economy and therefore a big consumer of products more generally. As care is redesigned into the future, there are massive opportunities to change the traditional models where we consume huge volumes of product in our care for people and turn it into a more of a digitized solution. We can understand how to care for people in different settings, care for people at home. So there's an opportunity to transform the entire system. Now that's great, but that'll take some time. In the short term, we're very focused on understanding what that footprint is today, where the products are being consumed, where they're being purchased from, how to integrate the system together to make great decisions based on data, based on fact, and then collaborating with the suppliers to understand what their carbon reduction plans are and understand how they can contribute more broadly to the system and ensure we're going to be successful in our aspirations against that carbon neutrality.
So I guess clearly the supply chain is huge within a healthcare operation. How do you go about measuring your supply chain emissions? Can you do it? And if you can't do it, what are the types of data you might need in order to be able to do it as you kind of look at the current situation and start to plan for the future?
So it is a massive challenge. Data itself is huge. There's a vast number of suppliers that we trade with every day, and actually their manufacturing facilities move around the world based on where things can be produced and how they get shipped to us to consume them. So data is always going to be a challenge. Fundamentally, we need great relationships. So we need great relationships with our suppliers where they are transparent, they're open, they share with us the information to let us make great decisions with them. And we share that information through the supply chain to the NHS and the front line to make sure those people consuming the products understand the impact of the decisions they're making. Now, it's not perfect. And actually, I don't think we should strive for perfection. If we try to measure every product to the nth degree of detail, in reality, we'll spend our whole time measuring it and not enough time doing something about it. So we know these products that are shipped a long way. So we're challenging ourselves on actually how can we change the mode of transport, or how can we look at other manufacturing locations that are nearer to us. We know the products that have significant drains on raw materials. So how can we have closed loop systems? How can we make sure that we're recycling products? How can we make sure we move to a circular economy? How do we prioritize those areas that have the biggest impact and make those changes first? Now, that won't get us all the way, but the projects we're delivering today are the first steps in getting us to net zero.
Absolutely. So then, when you're thinking about, in this broad supply chain, the kind of immediate opportunities that you might have to drive impact in reducing emissions and bringing down your carbon footprint, where are you focusing on right now?
So we've got a number of different programs. So there's really simple things. There's questions around packaging and plastics and pollution. There's questions around distances that products are traveling. There's challenges around how we can reuse products through sterilization processes rather than buying new products. And there's a whole remanufacturing program that we've been trialing as we eliminate an amount of waste from the system. So at the moment, I'd say we're more waste focused. As we move forward, we move more into the how do we redesign the entirety of the supply chain to make sure it's fit for that future health service that we're all going to need.
And how do you balance that middle ground between we want to reduce waste today, we want to change what we're doing in our operations, but we're looking towards the future. We know technology will be a huge part of how we provide health, how we prevent health issues. What's that? How do you strike that balance?
It's really hard, and we don't get everything right. And we've got to come at this on the basis of we know the right things to do, we know how to prioritize in the short term to ensure we're minimizing our impacts and making progress in the direction we want to go. And then we've got to work as a system and have great relationships. We have the transformation team looking at future digital technology, the NHS digital team looking at applicationware, the Royal Colleges looking at different practices and procedures. There's conversations happening all the time. And we're taking all those leading feeds of actually what could be the next thing, actually where are areas where people aren't looking, how can we resolve those in the short term? And it changes. We're lucky we have a broad team responsible for 160 different categories of spend, and each one of them has a different priority as to how they can make the changes they need to make to support frontline care. So if you look at it from the top down, it might be easy to say 25% on packaging, 30% on distance, but actually individually their priorities are very specific to their areas of spend and what they can do to influence it to make it better now, but with an eye on that long-term future.
Just focusing in on plastics and some of the waste that is produced out of healthcare systems and throughout the supply chain. What are you thinking about in terms of addressing that? Obviously, it's been a huge conversation across all industries in the past couple of years. So what's your perspective specifically on that issue?
Yeah, so there's different types of plastic waste that come from the system. There's products that are plastic that get used once and then are disposed of. And that's really focused on alternatives. That's focused on that remanufacturing cycle. That's focused on how to sterilize and reuse. Well, that's how to find other raw materials that are more sustainable or entirely sustainable in their application. And then there's also packaging. As part of our processes, every product comes to us with a certain level of packaging that's been specified in advance. We're working our way through changing those to make sure we're really articulate to the suppliers on what do we need you to do for us before we receive it. We're quite lucky, as part of the NHS in England, that we have a solution of distribution into a care setting that goes on reusable. So it goes via a roll cage solution, which means there's no additional packaging applied from the point of consolidation from suppliers into the point of care. So we're attacking each leg. Each one of them, again, has a different set of solutions appropriated to it, a different team focused on each one of them, and collectively delivering the outcome we want. This all needs to be knitted together. We're very lucky we've got a great sustainability team in the centre who can oversee all of those elements of the programme and make sure that collectively we will deliver for great healthcare.
So yes, when you look at kind of the global ecosystem of people working on sustainability issues, and you're looking at events like COP28, what do you hope will come out of events like that? What are you focused on for global cooperation around this issue?
Yeah, and this is something that we don't compete on. This is fundamental. We've got some great relationships with care systems around the world. And we have conversations on a one-to-one basis or in groups around these things that say, actually, what would success look like collectively? Because we only all win when we all win in this area. I think for me, anytime you get a large group of powerful people together and you can talk to those standards, that single way of measuring it, the single set of expectations we want, we can articulate them really, really clearly and then share them with the manufacturer base, share them with the suppliers, get their feedback on what will work for them too, but ultimately say, actually, for us to be successful as a manufacturer base around the world, as a way of designing future products, these are the attributes we're looking for and we're all looking for them. And therefore, if you behave in this way, you can be really successfully commercially at the other end. And equally, the counter exists. If you don't behave in that way, you should expect to be less successful in the future. And then we can give them a really clear choice as to how they want to play.
And generally, when you're in these conversations with suppliers, do you find that they're receptive to this idea of needing to change and push towards a more sustainable set of supply chains?
Yeah, so I've not met a single supplier yet who said to me, oh, I think this is a bad idea. I think they need some help. We're very lucky in the supply chain. We've got micro organizations with a dozen or so people with some incredibly innovative products locally manufactured that are hugely important to look after patients. We also deal with some massive global companies. And they come at this from very different directions. The global companies have put time and effort and understanding and have looked across multiple industry sectors they operate in, and they're taking those learnings. Actually, what we're seeing is a trickle-down effect. We're seeing some of them come to meetings and say, you might be a small supplier, but you're a key part of this network. We can give you that advice. We can share with you the work that we've done. We can collaborate. So we bring those networks of suppliers together and give them the opportunity to talk about where their challenges are. Because again, they only really win collectively when they all win. So we work on that basis. And actually, the behavior from the suppliers has been very positive over the last couple of years.
Do you think there's a new set of policies or practices at the regulatory level that need to happen to start pushing this along even more quickly? Or are you generally finding that doing it at an industry level is working well enough?
I think in the short term, I think the pace of change that can be accommodated by the supply markets and can be integrated into the care system is probably going about the right pace for us here. I think in the future, I think we'll get to some of the harder challenges. Low-hanging fruit will have been removed, and there'll be more of a we need to provide some more push, and at that point, policy might well be helpful. Exactly where that push is going to be needed, I don't think we know yet. So I think we've got a lot of work to do, and there's certainly an alignment and support across the breadth of the system that when we do need that policy, it'll be there to help us deliver. There is a collective will to make this happen, and we're committed to it, and it's part of what will make us successful. So we think it's a fantastic area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.